I'm joined by Ace Steel. You may know him from his work from Ring of Honor, OVW, now appearing in TNA wrestling. A bit of an on-air surprise, I'll say that, because I think some people knew that you had been working more behind the scenes. Now we get to see you on TV. You have a Chicago street fight that's going to air on Thursday's show. It's against Frankie Kazarian. Tell me about how uh, the on-air opportunity came up, because I think people were not only surprised to see you align yourself with Joe, but you're also jumping right into things. I think it's like less than 2 weeks since your appearance.
Yes.
You're gonna be back in the ring on TNA TV, on TNA Impact.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Bill. It's pretty crazy to be in the ring at this stage. And I mean, it's been a little while. Like every now and then I do an independent, just, you get the itch. And since I've opened a wrestling school, I've been a lot more active in ring and working with folks. How I ended up being Joe Hendry's coach, so to speak, or his advisor is quite simply, it's a shoot, as we say. I've been working with Joe backstage and on his matches and working on his craft to get him to that next level. None of that is BS by any means. It comes out in promo form, but I've really been working hard with him. Joe was actually at the school last week. He came down earlier in the week to work out at the foundation down here in Florida, and just hone some skills, work on some fine tuning of things. Me nitpick him. I'm a mechanics guy. I like to work on the mechanics of each wrestler and help, like I said, fine tune them, get them to that next level. And I want things to look right. I'm really into suspending disbelief,
Mm-hmm.
and that, in my opinion, if you look behind me at the people on my wall, if you can even see it,
Mm-hmm.
those guys really suspended disbelief. From Harley Race being my mentor, Terry Funk, the old Chicago poster. There's Bruiser Brody back there. I mean, these are the guys I grew up on, and though we know what the industry is, entertainment, so are movies, and we get thrown into those and we love them. So Joe and I have been working very close together. We've got a really good bond going on, and it just turned into an on-camera role that I would have his back, as he's a lone ranger, so to speak, in TNA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think people were maybe looking for some big explanation, or like wanted to know where this is going right away. And this is the thing that caught my interest. Like, he made a few references to CM Punk. Obviously, you're friends with him, you helped
Mm-hmm.
train him. But I don't know if anybody connected the dots between, you know, going from just making a reference about Punk to having you on air. It might have just been like, oh, Punk's popular at the moment. He's obviously doing great things in WWE. Maybe he was just, kind of playing up some stuff. I know you've seen like Jordan Grace dropped a couple hints about her mystery opponent before that open
Mm-hmm.
challenge. So it seemed like it was more along those lines, like just kind of, pulling on that thread, just kind of seeing what people are going to say about it. So now that
Mm-hmm.
now that you're on TV with Joe, I appreciate the explanation. What besides uh you know fine tuning, you talked about mechanics, is there another element you're looking to help him with?
Oh no, it's working on his in ring, what he does in ring, focusing 100%. He obviously has the crowd with the charisma, and that's something you can't teach. You can't teach that. You can tell people to come out of their shell, and hopefully they do. Um, with a guy like CM Punk, you couldn't tell him to stop talking on the mic. He always gravitated and could connect with the crowd, with anybody from the
Mhm.
independents to, obviously, look at him now. But Joe has had that intangible. He can go out there and he's done that himself. Everything he's done, from working in Ring of Honor at an early time in his career to when he got his shot in TNA. And I'll be 100% serious. Until I came on board with TNA, I had not heard of Joe Hendry. I may have heard the name, but I wasn't invested. And from the first night, and it was actually in Chicago last October when I started with TNA. For the first night I saw him in the ring, I'm like, wow, this guy's got something. Mechanics wise, and yes, what he does in the ring. Let's focus more on going for the win. Let's focus on what a champion would do.
Mm-hmm.
That champion mentality when he wrestles, not always pandering to the people. He has the people with him. We don't always have to turn and look at them. They're coming with us. Let's bring them for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't have to always sort of break that fourth wall and look into the camera. Like, that's kind of his thing in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting him more focused on what he's doing in the ring to get to the point of getting to the win, as opposed to let's get the crowd one more chant with us. They're going to chant. They're already chanting. The minute he's on the mat, they're chanting. If he's down, they're chanting for him to get up. So what can he do to maximize that? What can he do? You know, he doesn't have to waste a second getting a couple of claps in to doing that. Not that it's a total waste, but you understand what I'm saying. I hope.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get him to get to the point, much like any other champion that's had a championship belt. You know, it's hard for. I don't think of him as a strict comedy wrestler because I don't think he's comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to eliminate a little bit of the haha element to show the focus and show, again, if you've got the guys behind me on this wall, to show that killer instinct.
He's said this before, and I appreciate the work he's doing, but he, at the time that he said this, he focused on his look, and he said, what does a superstar look like? What does a pro wrestler look like? So he had his look in Ring of Honor, and then he built on that. So like the blonde hair and, you know, bulked up a little bit. So hearing you say that, as far as, you know, him being receptive to sort of losing a little bit of that haha element. So, you know, congrats to him, props to him for being receptive to doing that. I want to focus on comedy a little bit because I actually learned this before I found out, or I'm sorry, before we started recording, because I'm thinking like all these things that Joe does, you know, they are funny. You actually have been involved in a more infamous comedy angle. I didn't know that you portrayed Donald Trump on Raw.
That was me.
I didn't know that until today. Somebody pointed it out like an hour ago. So do you have any good memories of that segment? I know it's more infamous, but anything you want to reflect on now?
Nothing but good memories of that segment. I was in front of millions on Raw for, I'd have to look at the tally, the counter on how long we were on, but I'm going to guess at least 10 minutes, the whole segment, and then weeks after that, I know it was building an angle that year to get to WrestleMania. But I was on the magazine shows for weeks and weeks and weeks, the late night, like whatever headline news used to be. Like I would keep seeing it appear. My segment would continue to be on week after week because it was the Rosie Trump war in the media. For myself, there's no politics involved with this whatsoever. I played a part. For myself, it was the eye-opening thing that you've got to open up your mind to the entertainment factor a little bit more. And I've often told the story of that was 2007, early on in January, I believe, January or February. 2006, I was the most complete pro wrestler that I could be with look, body. I just got back from a pro wrestling Noah tour in late 06. But nothing was really jiving anymore. I was on WWE's radar. And again, I am a serious pro wrestler. I'm doing what exhausting every avenue and as far as that goes. And then I did a spoof. I did a spoof where the crowd was like just completely crapping on it. And I thought, oh man. And that's what, Vince had wanted at the time. He just wanted the exposure. He, we hit a home run for him, for the company to launch it into what they wanted. I mean, it was all a publicity stunt, really, but I hit a home run with it. And my technical aspect of being a worker at that point came in, the type of worker I was and being able to allow myself just to goof off. That came into play 100% because I was the one who led that match and kept it on track, even though it was pretty much comedy all through. But it just showed me right. Like, no, I have nothing but great memories. I was at the Scott Trade Center in St. Louis, a huge venue, just what a crazy opportunity when you've got folks in the back just vying for 2 minutes of TV time. And I got to do that. And as luck would have it, 2 weeks later, I was signed to a developmental deal for all, like I said, for all the things I had been doing wrestling wise that I thought,
Mhm.
I was on pace to do, Ring of Honor Japan. Like, I was in the mix, and that's what did it. So careful what you wish for when you get those things.
When they come up, people lampoon them and whatnot, but I think this comment kind of puts things in perspective. Triple H made a joke at I think it was the post-show press conference. He said
Mm-hmm.
something along the lines of security guards make the best future wrestlers. So it's sort of like it's sort of like in that same realm where, you're taking your shot. This is what they asked me to do. Maybe it leads to more, but you're doing what, in this case, your boss was Vince at the time, or he's the boss,
Yeah.
but you're doing the job that you were asked to do and doing it well. So I think, it, whether it leads to a future opportunity for everyone, that's to, remains to be seen. But I'm glad you have such a positive outlook on it.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, you've got to look back at things like that and just snicker and laugh. Like, and it's funny that a lot of people have it. Some people want to take a shot. Oh, it's the best thing he's ever done. Whatever.
Mhm.
I got to do it. I got to do many other things that they don't know about. I fulfilled, number one was fulfilling my childhood dream of doing this,
Yeah.
to be good at it and to excel. And here I'm at the icing on the cake that I'm still involved in the industry, still doing what I love.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a good outlook on it. And I think time changes your perception too, because there's been stuff in wrestling where I'm like, all right, this is stupid, but now like something like Hornswoggle running through the hole in the wall and
Yeah,
Chavo running into it, like I get a crack out of that, like now.
sure,
But
sure.
all right, let's talk about your return to the ring, your televised return to the ring.
Yes, sir.
This is a Chicago street fight against Frankie Kazarian on Thursday's episode of TNA Impact. If I have this correct, this is your first televised match since 2009 in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds exactly
Yeah.
right.
Uh,
Wow.
if people aren't familiar with your work, maybe some of them know about your relationship with CM Punk. Maybe they know some of the other stuff you've been doing. What's like the elevator pitch? Who is Ace Steel? What does he bring to TNA? What does he bring to, what does he bring to the ring and backstage, if you want to look at it that way? But, what should fans expect on Thursday?
Well, I'm bringing 30 years of in-ring experience, mentored by the great Harley Race, mentored by so many, but Harley would be the hardest nosed fellow that has been involved in my career. He was my agent for Japan, but my style has always been reminiscent of a brawler. I do not shy from technical wrestling. I feel I'm a very good technical wrestler, but I've always been involved in brawls because I am from Chicago, and Chicago is a bloodthirsty town. And I've just been, I've been in the Cage of Death, Ring of Honor versus CZW Cage of Death, which was a crazy, crazy thing. And that whole summer was myself, Adam Pierce, and others involved defending Ring of Honor against the deadly CZW of Necro Butcher and Chris Hero and people like that, and Claudio Castagnoli from CZW. We spent the summer just fighting all up and down, around the U.S. with Ring of Honor. I actually had moved from Chicago in 2004. Punk and I had a Chicago street fight again. I left the next day and moved to Missouri to live near Harley, and work out of there. My whole career has just been based upon it's like, and being in Japan and learning, the proper way to throw a forearm or elbow, if you would, from Mitsuharu Misawa. My career has been based on stuff like that. Again, the realism that I talk about and go to. So folding into a match like this, and the thing that brought me here is that with Joe Hendry on Friday night at the pay-per-view at Against All Odds, a foreign object was used by Frankie Kazarian. He dropped Joe, and he went to needlessly put him in his submission, his crossface chicken wing, and I interrupted that. And then Frankie, disrespected me by pushing me. And it's a hard thing for us, especially for Chicagoans, not much less a wrestler, to have someone get in your face and, not back up, you
Mhm.
know, not back up anything and just cower away. And I just by instinct alone, he pushed me and I dropped Frankie. And here we are, Chicago street fights on. So, ready to go. ready to do it. I've never felt better. As good as I'm going to feel, as good as I felt in years. I'm in great shape at this point, and yeah, expect some fun, expect some dreaded fun. We're gonna beat the hell out of each other.
Anybody else? I know this relationship with the on-air relationship with Joe is new, but is there anybody else that you have sort of taken a liking to since you got to TNA that maybe can use a little push from a guy like you?
Oh, sure. I'm a huge fan of the Rascals. Huge fan of the Rascals. Zach Wentz actually pops down to my school and helps out quite a bit.
Mhm.
And that is just a respectful thing that he does for me. But I've become such a huge fan. I knew him just a little bit from being at the WWE Performance Center in NXT when he and Wesley came in.
Mhm.
And I was amazed at the things they were doing. And I had no knowledge of them. So now getting to really work with him and see him at shows and seeing what those guys have, or when they wrestle ABC, I'm floored by the things that they could do. I think, tag teams like that, like they have such a bright future. Chris
Mhm.
Bay, Ace Austin, another Ace. I think there's such potential there with those guys as they move into the next, as they get more groomed in season. Santana is on fire.
Mhm.
Santana, holy cow, I haven't seen such a spark in him. And I'd worked with him previously a little bit, just at the same place, but I'd
Mhm.
seen him over the years, and man, he is on fire. Steve Macklin is giving us everything we need out of a hard-nosed fighter.
Mhm.
Um, I love that feel that he brings, and the system is on top, doing well. Those are more the older fellows that have been in this industry quite a long time that have finally shifted their focus, that to do their best to take over TNA. So we're starting to cross paths. That's another reason helping Joe out. Again, like I said, he's the Lone Ranger. He doesn't really have a lot of allies. He doesn't have a lot of allies, but the people of that ilk, man, they're really coming up and doing some great business. Like ever since I started here and I watched the show, I'm like, these guys are amazing. How come the world doesn't know about these people?
Some of it is I think people sleep on TNA. I think some people still won't give the company that, like the new company a chance. They still think, oh, it's TNA. It's like the stuff you saw 15 years ago, and it's
Right.
unfair. I watch it regularly. I think, for the past couple of years, Impact has been one of the most consistent shows week to week as far as uh, storyline threads, not leaving plot holes. I think there's a lot of good things about Impact. I hope uh, more people start tuning in. I think, another name like AJ Francis is going to bring eyes to the show because,
Oh yes.
I mean, he's a perfect digital media champion. Like, he's all over social media. He has a lot of friends in other avenues besides wrestling. I think the relationship with WWE helped. The prohibited portal, as Jordan called it. So uh, uh, I know we're running short on time. Anything else you want to plug or promote before we get out of here?
TNA, the Street Fight this week, Chicago Street Fight, TNA app or Access Television. Um, look for your local listings for times. I'm on the East Coast, so I just give TNA a chance. Like we've got upcoming shows. We're taping in Louisville. No, I'm sorry, at the arena,
You'll be in.
2300 Arena. The famed 2300 Arena is coming up in a couple of weeks. The Hardy Boys will be there, and all the greats at TNA. I will throw in, because I talked about it earlier, the Foundation of Professional Wrestling here in Winter Park, Florida. I've opened the school here the last couple months, and Joe Hendry and a host. Find us on Instagram. We've got a host of guests that are always coming in and working out and training. So I got international students coming very soon. I'm just looking to grow our industry the right and proper way. But support TNA, support wrestling, period. Because supporting independent wrestling, those are the people that are coming. There's no farm leagues anymore. We are the farm leagues. We're getting our people out there that are working hard, and that's why I ran a school. Why I decided to open a school is to give us some more people that are of the right ilk for this industry and bring in, and let's get more eyes on this product. And wrestling has never been bigger, I don't think, than it is at this point. I mean, you could talk about late 90s, or late 90s and the 2000s, and the booms that we've had for each each and every decade, but man, it is at an all-time high right now.